Welcome to Money Convos, where we discuss personal finance and investment tips. We're committed to helping people create wealth and achieve financial freedom. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. All right then, let's head into today's conversation.
Big Adam, how have you been?
Yeah, Helikem. I'm good. Yourself?
I'm great, Vadon. I'm good. Greetings to everyone tuning in to listen. Chief Nana Priku, we salute you. Charlie, so Adam, what's going on? Is this still flooding in our homeland?
Well, I think on Saturday there was a very heavy rain, but probably because of the timing, it started at around 2 a.m. or something like that, all the way till about 7 a.m. Like it rained for a long time.
Wow.
So I know there were plenty places that were flooded, but possibly because of the timing, it didn't seem to gain so much traction. It affected, but probably it was maybe more of local people who in the area know, because at that time, I'm not sure even the pressmen were awake.
That's a good one. That's even the pressmen were awake. That's interesting. I see. Okay, good. All right. We are here. Certain parts of the US are also experiencing some weird weather. There were tornadoes, and then I saw that there was some flooding in Dallas, and I was like, hey,
Charlie,
flooding like that. What's going on? Climate change is real, bro.
It is real.
But
it is real
for us in third world developing countries, is now that we are also trying to develop ourselves. So for us to be suffering the effects of climate change and then expect to be bearing the cost of the mitigation some way.
You see?
Somewhere.
But
anyway, we move. We figure out what to do. Speaking of, the general things that we are talking about today, right now we're just talking about the weather. Today's conversation is kind of similar. In the last couple of weeks, we have been discussing education, or in the light of our career, trying to sharpen our tools, trying to prepare ourselves to be good contributors to the labor market so that we can earn as much money as possible and be useful in society. We started off talking about no excuses 3 weeks ago. We spoke about formal education. That's like going through high school, going through undergrad, master's program. Then last week, we spoke about continuous education in the sense of continuous professional education, getting licenses, certifications, those diplomas, those other things that may not be necessarily a degree outside the normal form of education. These ones are more professional. We spoke about that. And today we're kind of wrapping up the conversation about sharpening our tools in education with general knowledge, because we believe that it's good for people to be good at other things, just beyond their own field. So we want to teach people how the benefits, tell people why you should bother about even general knowledge. And this is the thing where people, when we were growing up, they used to tell us, read wide. When we come up with a topic for this, we struggle to avoid the word read wide, because in this day and age, reading is not the only way you can gather information. So there's videos on YouTube or wherever. There's audios. There are many. In fact, these days when I read books, I don't even look at them physically with my eyes. It's more like listening to them. So there are many ways we are absorbing information. So we are going to be talking about all the ways we can absorb information. That's what the conversation is going to be about. Why bother? How to do it well, and the kind of topics you should be thinking about. Okay, so Eden, let me start off with a question for you. Why should people bother about general knowledge? Like, if I went to school to do accounting, why can't I just care about accounting and financial statements and debits, credits, and mind my own business? Or I did engineering, why can't I just care about bridges and machines and those kind of things? Why should I care about anything else? I did medicine. Why should I care about art or literature or anything else going on in the world? Why should I bother in the first place? So my question for you was, why should we bother? Why can't we just stick in our own lane? In the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about everybody should sharpen their tools. So why this time we are saying that people should read out and get a broader perspective? Why does it matter?
Well, first off, what comes to my mind is that we live in a world with other people. And so let's say if you're an accountant, that does not mean that the only things you are going to be dealing with are accounting and accounting and financial statements only. So we would need some level of general knowledge to be able to deal with other people, because you are going to be interacting with many people, maybe doctors, nurses, drivers. And I mean, we need some basic general knowledge to be able to function as people properly in this world. So you cannot just restrict yourself to your field and say, because I am an engineer, I can be only bothered about engineering stuff. No, you should be able to read wide, because the funny thing is that even as an engineer, maybe you are even designing buildings. You would be dealing with, let's say, school buildings, maybe hospitals, residences, and all of that. You should have some idea about even all these basic things that you're going to be dealing with. So it's very important that, for one, I would say, because we are not alone in the world, we need to have the general knowledge to be able to relate with other people. Two, it also enhances our work, because there are some days you would not be doing something that is strictly in your field. You would have to deal with other things that do not really concern you, like typically. So that's what I would say.
That's good. We are not alone in this world, and so it's good to care about things that go beyond us. There are a few angles that, for me, I would say we need to consider when we are thinking about how general knowledge is going to be benefiting us. There's how it will benefit us in terms of our career, and how it will benefit us in terms of our personal lives, and even more so the networking, just general being a good human being, right? So on the career side, a professional, like Adam was saying, a professional who knows beyond what they do is more valuable. Just think about the situation, perhaps a worst case scenario, right? You are in a situation where your company is doing layoffs. The more you can do, the better off you are. And at this point, I would even like to quote something from Shakespeare, or it says it's usually attributed to Shakespeare. I wonder if he's really the one who said it. A jack of all trades is master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Usually we just say the first half of this quote. That's a jack of all trades is master of none. But actually the entire quote adds on, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So it's good to be a master, to master your craft, to be an expert in your field, but it's even better to widen your perspective, right? And general knowledge can help you get that. Like, it will help you be able to in work. It will help you be able to connect with people from other perspectives. You may have some foreign workers join your team temporarily, and because you have an understanding about culture in other countries, you know certain faux pas, you know certain things that you shouldn't do and things that you should do, how to welcome people. You can strike a conversation about something in their country, and they go like, oh wow, this person knows a bit about me, and then these kind of things, they help you. Even people be more, they'll like you more, and they'll be more easy to work with. So some of this general knowledge helps. Also in the professional setting, for me, I realized that it helps with creativity and imagination. If you are put in any kind of situation, you draw on your prior experience, your prior knowledge. Now, if all your prior knowledge is from one field, we say that sometimes some people are like hammers, right? So if you take somebody who is a hammer and put them in any situation, you'll go and look for a nail. But if somebody who has perspective that has been gathered by acquiring knowledge from other places, they won't always look for a nail. They'll try to see, okay, what kind of situation am I in? What skills do I need to apply in this situation, right? And getting some general knowledge helps. And we are not saying go and do a course in a different field. No, we're just talking about, just gather some extra knowledge. And we'll talk about ways that we can gather extra knowledge. Like, just to preempt that part of the conversation, just simply listening to news, general news would help you. Okay, great. So that's on the professional side. On the personal side, imagine that you care all, like, you're like me, you've been in finance for the longest time and you don't know much about health. Like, you don't listen to any science stuff. You don't know much about your health. You'd always have to rely on a doctor, going to the hospital or something, right? But if you are curious enough and you are able to learn certain things about general health, you can set a baseline for your health. You may not know a lot about cars, but if you just say, okay, I'm going to buy a car or I own a car, let me just know a little bit about this car so that I can keep it and keep it well. You see, it helps you maintain your standard of life better than going into situations totally clueless. It's like, have you noticed this thing? Well, when we were coming up, I thought having your phone stolen was just a rite of passage. Have you ever had a phone stolen from you?
Like, okay, I maybe say once.
Okay. Yes.
Now I dropped it in a taxi and I tried tracing it. It was unsuccessful.
See, yeah. I back in the day, I used to think having your phone stolen was just a rite of passage. It's happened to me twice. So, without waiting for it to happen to you, if you are generally aware of certain issues that are related to security, personal security, you know that when you are in a bus around Medina area, now is not the time to be sending a hot tweet. You can wait till you get to a safer place or roll up your window, that kind of thing, So it improves your quality of life by just knowing general life things and not just, and also, of course, among your friend group, you look like a really cool person. Don't overdo it else you become too known. And then lastly, the networking part, like you could link networking to your personal and your work life, but I think having a good network is a big enough thing to put aside on its own, right? And how do you get a good network? Part of it is just being able to talk to people. All right. So, I know a lot of people watch Korean series, so I can imagine that if they meet Korean people, they should have something to talk about. You're not just, you get into a space and you don't just end up walking away without any addition to your network. You can connect with people, add on to your network, be more interesting to talk about. And people like it when they talk to people who know what they are talking about, or at least can show some interest. Because you know a little bit about something, you can pick up on it. One of the most fascinating things for me when I'm talking to people is when I'm trying to talk to someone and I ask them a question and they give their okay, anything, something. Vague answers, just shut it down. Like, just say something. Give me anything. Just mention a word that I can pick up on to pursue the conversation, right? And that's how people become more likable. And as people like you, the more you can get things done. Because as we all grow older, we will eventually get into spaces of leadership. And even if you don't plan to, in life, you need to influence people. And this is one of the ways that you can influence people, the ability to connect with people. Different people have different interests. Some people care about ballet. Some people care about soccer. Some people care about hunting. Some people care about golf. If you have a little bit of information about this and that, you can connect with more people. So yeah, for me, I think that's part of the reason why I would say read wide, get more information, so that you can be a well-rounded person. Great. So, curious, right? What kind of, as we are saying that people should read wide, perhaps we could start with like, what kind of things should people read up on? Adam, any things in your experience you found that it's helped you with reading wide or other topics?
Okay, well, me reading wide, we can talk about news too. That's listening wide, right? And then podcasts too. Yeah, that one you introduced me to podcasts. And be selective about the kinds of podcasts anyway. Yeah, but generally to podcasts, reading online portals and all of. So these are all the various areas that I'm able to. I see that they bring in a lot of benefits, which is not like reading wide, but it is also trying to gain wider knowledge from different aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are really good sources, like the news and podcasts. I think what we can do is just make a routine of it. For me, when I wake up, one of the first things I do as I'm getting ready is just turn on open my podcast app, just download all the latest news because I have those subscriptions or I followed those channels and they just load up next and I listen to the news. It takes maybe within the first 30 minutes. Of course, I listen to these things really fast, but within the first 45 minutes of my morning, I've gathered a lot about what's going on around the world. When I was in Ghana, I didn't listen to Ghanaian news because Charlie, everything is just depressing and people just complaining. So for that, I stopped listening to Ghanaian news pretty early on. All right. I think people should just listen to news. Like, commit to consuming at least 10 minutes of news every single day. And this is the impact, okay? Not just the news, but any other thing. Some of these things, they seem simple and we let them go and we are just stuck. It's like we don't know the impact it's going to have. There was one day I was joining a social organization, just, some social organization, and I went for an interview. Nothing too serious, not serious student type, but they were trying to get to know me. And somebody asked a question. This was back when Trump was president. He was like, "So what do you think about China devaluing their currency?" And the person was probably telling me this because, I'm supposed to be in investments at the time. And so I should know this. And I was like, wow. This thing was said on the news just this morning. So if I had, and it's not like I discussed it with anybody else throughout the day. So if I had not listened to the podcast that morning, I would not have known what was going on and have a meaningful conversation with the person. Meanwhile, the person asking me this is a medical doctor. He's a medical doctor. Why would you think such a question is going to come from him? Right? But he's trying to make conversation and then because I had some information, I added it to my professional knowledge, gave a perspective, and he was impressed. So you never know when it's going to catch you off guard. So just be ready. It won't always be information you got that day. But sometimes somebody you may just say, go and talk to this person, go and talk to that person. There are a lot of times that we will just be talking to people and we don't know we are in an interview. So why not have some general knowledge? When you have general knowledge, you have perspective. So imagine every day you listen to meaningful news, not just politics. Like, I see the benefits of politics for some people and all that. I try not to worry about that, but sorry for another day. If that's your jam, whatever it is, just gather news from a source that cuts across a wide breadth. Okay, and we'll talk about some specific topics soon. But you imagine doing this for 10 minutes or even 20 minutes a day. Compare that with somebody who didn't do this at all. Take a year. All right. In 1 week, you would have, if you listen to 20 minutes of news in 1 week, let's just say weekdays. In 1 week, you would have gathered 100 minutes of news, of knowledge that no one else can take out of your head. All right. 100 minutes. Then in a month, that is 400 minutes. And at this point, just changing that into hours, right? That is about 6.6 hours of information that you've gathered. In a whole year, that's 80 hours of news. You see how these things, they compound? Just building that habit. You don't have to listen to it as if you're going to write a text on it. No. Just listen, let it pass through your head. Like the subconscious will absorb some of these things. You are driving to work or you are in a trotro going home. Just listen to these things. Okay. Pick a couple of podcasts. I have some that I'll recommend, but pick something, whatever it is. Start small, even if it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Just make a habit of it. And it's good to set it around when you are doing other things. Like you wake up. Like when I'm doing my push-ups, I know it's when I immediately wake up or before I brush my teeth. So if I'm about to brush my teeth and I realize I haven't done push-ups, then man has to go down. You get the idea. It's good to build habits around things you already do. Anyway, so those are the benefits that you get. And imagine just 20 minutes a day, or just on even just weekdays. That's 80 hours of information that you've gathered. We know many people who don't do that. A lot of people go and listen to showbiz news about Wally and co. And it's all good. It's actually good to know some of these things. We're talking about general knowledge. We're not talking about just things that suit and tie kind of serious. No, general things like at least be able to know what's going on with Taylor Swift and all those. Amazing. All right. So, that's so podcast for me in terms of sources. If you like reading, you can just get a newsletter and be mindful of the sources, right? We'll circle back and talk about some of the sources that are not good. But now to talk about some topics, what interesting topics? I think it's good to know about some sports. When I came to school, we started the NBA. Some people organized an event to sit us down and teach us about American football, because what we call football is different. And you don't want to be found somewhere and then they're talking about something and they are there. You can't join in on the conversation. It will reduce your opportunities, right? So read wide about other sports. The economy is something that people should just know. Like that one, you can't escape it. If you have money in your pocket, you have money in your account, it's something that you can't escape. And then you pick up on some of these things and then you start learning, okay, what does inflation mean? What does interest rates mean? You know, and it's at this point that I was do a shameless plug for us. Like, just come to Money Convos once a week and just pop up on those kind of things, because we'll teach you these things. And if you've not listened to all our shows, get on YouTube, get on wherever you listen to your podcast. We have over 100 episodes. That is more than 180 hours of content that you can catch up on. Take your time. No need to rush. At least once a week, come in here, tune in live, or don't miss an episode. Listen to it during the week. You'll be good on that side. And also, if you get in touch with the content and you realize that you're enjoying it and you want it to be more personal for you, want it to affect your life individually, get on Instagram, look up at investment_friend. At investment friend. There, we don't just talk, we actually get to the doing. And to get to the doing, we look at your individual scenario, okay, your individual circumstances, and tell you something that would benefit you, come up with a strategy to benefit you, and there's a whole community there to support you. Anyway, with that advert over, back to the matter. So I've mentioned in terms of topics, I've talked about sports, like fashion, a little bit about engineering, science. These days, science and technology is a thing. All right. So you can't not know about AI. Now, I know some big men who've never used ChatGPT. So I'm giving somebody a side eye. He's not here, but when he listens, he gets his side eye. He usually listens after. If you know, you know. He's not used ChatGPT. How? In this day and age. So, when things are happening, just dip in there. And then how about you? What kind of topic do you think people should just dabble in a little?
Okay, yeah. So like you said, I also think technology, it's a very interesting place to focus your attention on. And then more specifically to relating to technology is even cybersecurity matters, like, because in this day and age, we are doing a lot of, let's say, mobile banking, online transactions, e-commerce stuff. I think it's very, very appropriate that you spend a lot of time trying to understand some of the security issues relating to being safe in some of these spaces, just so that you don't end up losing monies in scams or in attacks, cyber attacks or anything. Like, anything you can do to protect yourself. If you could read more about these things, it will help. Then you can also look at, so I've talked about cybersecurity with respect to technology. And even food. There's some people who like knowing stuff about, they call themselves foodies. So you can also try to read around and know what other options or choices are there. And then I've also tried to do a lot of reading on health. Yeah, I know we are not supposed to be Googling your symptoms, but I'm just talking about general well-being, knowing what you should be doing, some of the things to do, more of preventive health. Okay, in terms of how can I keep a better health? How can I live healthier so that I avoid falling sick? All those kinds of things, we can read them so that we know that maybe some of the things we do on a daily basis probably are bringing sickness to us. We don't know. So you should be able to be reading more on health matters. Then also, world politics. I like to listen to things about world politics. Generally, right now, you hear that China is doing press ups, getting ready for Taiwan. You know, you need to be reading about some of these things and be able to understand what is going on. Russia, Ukraine, and all of those. You know, we talk about these things. Sometimes it feels like it is a distant issue, but they have bearing on us, especially your third world countries. So it can even sometimes give you an idea of the direction you can be leaning towards, even when we are talking about investments, because gradually I think we'll get to a point where even in Ghana, if we are talking about investments, we will not be talking about just maybe putting your money in Ghana, government of Ghana treasury bills, but we might be looking as individuals who might have gotten to a point where the world is more globalized. You might be thinking about putting your money in some treasury bills in this thing, Luxembourg or US or Japan or something. We might be cross-country and international investors, so you would want to understand all of these things. Then also, so apart from the geopolitics, the global politics and all of these things, you might also want to be interested in, okay, you've mentioned sports. So yeah,
I guess
different kinds of sports that are out there.
Yeah, just to add on some more topics from where Adam dropped off, you know, certain general topics like literature, like at least if they say Shakespeare, you shouldn't be lost, you know, just, you go and look up, you go to ChatGPT, give me some general knowledge about literature. Just read one article, that's all.
Ghana with.
And then you can also look at psychology, economics. You can think about, there's politics, there's the environment. The environment, climate change is a big deal these days. At least have a sense of what is going on in there. And then, you can also look at languages, like, which country speaks what language? Know a little bit about travel. This day and age, everybody wants to travel. At least all the ladies want to travel. So it will be something that it will be good for you to know a bit about. Going from place to place, where are the cool spots in different places. You know, even if people are talking about traveling and you've never been, go like, actually this place is on my bucket list. I've been thinking about going to Tahiti, or I've been thinking about going to Maui or something. You know, when people are talking, you can also talk some. You understand? Then there's also personal development stuff, like read books. You know, we read books every now and then. Personally, I like biographies, autobiographies or biographies where you learn from people's life stories. The books by Lee Kuan Yew. Recently, I read a book on Walter Isaacson's book about Elon Musk. You read the book, you understand him. I didn't walk away liking him more or less. I understood. You know, there are books about Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, whichever character in life. It doesn't have to be in business. It can be, if it's religion, somebody that is in your, that is of your faith or a faith that you're curious about. Just ask about them, you know. Just do some reading about how people have lived their lives. It's one thing to to hear principles, but it's another thing to hear about how people did the things that the principles that we talk about. How do people live the principles? Those that serve as good examples for us. So yeah, a bit about art and music. Sometimes I go away from my usual Afro beats and I'm at piano and try to listen to some other music. So R&B here, some pop there. You know, just know what the youngins are doing, what the youngins are up to these days, you know, or what other people like. And not just hate on other things that people don't like. At least when they are speaking about it, I can say a little bit, you know. So yeah, many topics. I actually put this prompt in ChatGPT and it was like, and I asked, give me 20 topics people should care about when browsing for general knowledge. And so many ideas came here. So you can make it a plan, even ask it to give you a list of articles, one every day, and take a month. And every day in the month, you just read something different. That's another way to go. Being deliberate about how you absorb information from a broad perspective. Okay, great. So yeah, so far we've covered why you should bother caring about general knowledge. What's back in the day we used to say reading wide. Now it's listening wide, watching wide. You know, all of that. Then we talked about certain topics that you should care about and sources of information where you can go find this information. All right. And at this point, I guess it would be good for us to talk about things how we should discern a good source of information. Because in this day and age, like people get on social media and just to get clicks, they say something incendiary or inflammatory or something. They'll just straight up lie just to get people's attention and then make it look like, oh, they are some different kind of person. So you need to be careful. Adam, do you have any thoughts on how people can be more discerning about where they pick up information?
Elike, you know why I was laughing? I just remembered, Ramsey is always talking about these TikTok people. And so basically, if you are browsing for information, especially on social media, one of the things you would want to know is the background of some of the people. So, for example, I think how I just decided to start taking conscious efforts about these things is when Dave Ramsey says, like, you cannot be listening to a broke person on Instagram telling, or like on TikTok telling you about financial freedom and all of those things. The background is very, very important. What are their background? What are their credentials? Those are some of the things we need to listen out for. And for even spotting out fake news carefully also, which is also another problem, because once you are trying to read wide, it means fake news and all of those things are also going to be a part of the issues you have to contend with. We need to look out for places that are very credible, sources that are credible. I mean, we already have established sources. Like, for example, some of the podcasts I listen to, I follow some of the big media houses where you know that there are some laid down rules and regulations in terms of how they bring out content. So generally, you can be more assured, even though nobody's immune, or there is no system that is immune from generating a fake news or wrong information. I mean, you can have much more comfort when you tune into certain places that already have that kind of credibility. So looking out for the background, looking out for credible institutions and organizations. When you try and Google about the info, or another way to even cross-check, not just running with things hook, line, and sinker from one area. Like, once you've read this or you've heard this type of thing, especially in an area you don't really understand, you cross-reference. So, for example, when I was trying to learn more about reducing high blood pressure or keeping your blood pressure within a good and normal range, I tried looking out for medical journals, reading information from there. And when I read from certain places, I cross-reference with other places. And then you would realize generally that if the thing is a professional opinion that is widely accepted in the industry, you would see it running in major or reputable media
journals.
or reputable source journals. Yes, exactly. It will run across those places. So then you know that if they tell you that have physical activity of at least 150 minutes a week, do this, reduce salt intake, do this, then you know that all these things relate to generally the steps you should be taking. And then you can also run it by professionals, people who have already studied. So maybe you've read one or two things about some accounting, something. You can just, in your conversations with the professionals that are within your network, you can just run, oh, last time I got this information, or what do you think about this? And that way you are sifting out and being able to determine whether what you are learning or what you are reading about is the right thing, or it's wrong information. Or it could not be even wrong information, but it could be a counter opinion. Like sometimes we have certain schools of thought where people come from two different angles, and then it even helps you to understand better the kinds of angles that are with issues when it comes to a particular industry.
Yeah, this is some really good stuff, Eden. Thanks for giving us the heads up how to be more discerning. When you started off, you said something, and I just want to provide a quote. maybe one day we'll come on an episode, we'll be able to go without talking about Dave Ramsey. But yeah, speaking of reading wide, I strongly encourage people get on YouTube. Okay, the shorter form of his things, Dave Ramsey highlights or Ramsey show highlights. At least those ones are in fewer minutes at a time. And then they will listen to 2 hours at a time. But anyway, Dave Ramsey has a quote, and he says, "A man with an experience is not at the mercy of a man with an opinion." Okay, so when you are looking at somebody who have where you can a source of information, you need to find out if the person is an expert, if the person actually has real experience in that thing, or the person just Googled, or in fact, better still these days, ask ChatGPT to write them a nice speech that they are regurgitating to you. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, before we wrap up, there's something that a concept that I think would help all of us as we are thinking about general knowledge. We've been talking and we've seen the benefits of general knowledge. There's just one principle that if you actually accept, you'll be more eager for general knowledge. And it's about curiosity. I think we should all start becoming more and more curious. So all through, starting from university, I always kept a notes pad, digital on my phone. Those days, Android, it was a widget. And in fact, these days I still do it in various forms. I always like writing notes. Mimi will tell you, anytime she's talking to me, I ask her, are you going to be talking, is there a pen and paper around? Cause vibes are going to come out. Bars are going to drop. We need to record it. But anyway, I'm a fan of notes taking, but even more so for curiosity, we need to be asking questions about things around us. So maybe you're driving along the road and you see something, be like, why are traffic lights red, go green? Just write it down somewhere and then ask ChatGPT later. Just ask questions. So why is this thing like this? Why is that thing like that? These days you don't have to ask another person for somebody to say you're annoying. These days you have ChatGPT. My mom, I've actually downloaded ChatGPT for my mom, and I noticed it was already on her phone. I wanted to put the more upgraded version there. ChatGPT 4.0. This is not 4.0. 4.0, guys. You need to try that. You thought Siri was a personal assistant. ChatGPT 4.0 it's on a whole different level. It will be talking to you as if it's another human being. Anyway, why did I want to put on her phone? So that she stop asking me questions. All right. So yeah, same thing. So that you don't be annoying to other people. Just use that tool, GPT 4.0. Just use it. Ask any question. Why is this thing like that? Why is that thing like that? Oh, what other ways can I do this? What other ways can I do that? Anything you are struggling with, I bet you there's a more efficient way. Be curious. Make a list of things. So I always had a list of things that I was curious about, trying to figure out, and I was always trying to bring my list down. But as you know, with all to-do lists, it only gets longer. But there will always be deletions. By the end of the week, I've learned a lot. By the end of the month, I've learned a lot. In a year and many years later, like it's all compounded. Sometimes people look and ask me now, like, how do you know these things? And I'm like, I can't pinpoint to you one particular day that I learned something, but it's all bubbles up. It's all cascades into one thing. Just to get a bit more specific, speaking of the benefit, right? I was telling, when people are applying to school or applying for an MBA program, because I know how the interviews are, and I tell them, start listening to news on a daily basis. And then you manage to get in, you're recruiting, engaging with companies, trying to find a job. And then, or you're even in class, some people are not able to contribute much. Some just because they are shy, some because really they don't know anything about this particular topic. And they would ask, like, how do you know all these things? The last 10 years, I've been gathering information. Like anyone who sits in my car in the morning or in the evening, chances are you're not going to be listening to music. Even worse if it's a long trip. I'll let you listen to whatever you want on the speaker and I have my earphone in my ear, but I can't go many hours without consuming information. So it's something that just adds up and gives you way more perspective to life. So I strongly encourage people to be curious. Curiosity is all about just asking questions. Don't just leave things, oh, that's how it is. No. Why is it like that? Just keep asking questions and you'll be amazed at the kind of answers you'll be getting. So we've been having an interesting conversation about general knowledge. We just spoke about curiosity. Before I ask Adam his perspective on curiosity, Prince, we'll see you in the audience. We'd like to have you up, share your perspective on how general knowledge has helped you and how you gather that, and any take on curiosity before we wrap it up. Yeah, but Adam, how about you? You interact with so many people, diverse backgrounds. What have you figured out about curiosity in your many years?
Okay, so Elikem, I noticed that in our parts of the world, especially here in Ghana, people who are curious, we have a way we label them, especially if you are in school and they are in class and they ask questions. People say, this guy is too known. Why? You are the only student in the class. We always have some funny way we deal with people when they are curious. And I think by and large, it has affected a lot of people. So we have a lot of people who don't ask questions, people who are not curious enough, or even if they are, they just keep to themselves and are not kind of brave to go out there and ask the questions, because you are afraid that even the teacher might shut you down, or your colleagues might see you as some way, or yes, there's this bad impression about people who ask questions. And I feel we need to correct that, because if somebody does not understand something, it's best it is explained to the person, so the person is not walking around or working with an assumption. There are too many times where people walk around and we move with assumptions, and those assumptions might be wrong. So curiosity in itself is not bad. It's good. It helps us to be able to discover more and be able to even build on and even question the way we are doing things, and probably even improve systems or processes that we have. So curiosity, it's a good thing, and we should develop it by one, asking questions. I keep using this example all the time, that even at church, when we're having Bible study, and then you even throw a question. Sometimes you even throw questions to people and people don't want to answer. People don't ask questions. It's like, oh, do you understand? Yes, but they don't. There's some question or something lingering in their mind, but people feel that maybe that question is stupid. But I don't think any question is stupid in the sense. If you situate it in the right context, you would be able to see that, no, this question can generate a discussion that will bring up better solutions or better understanding and viewpoints. And even if we have counter opinions about established, maybe there's the general established thinking, and then there is, you have a counter opinion, you should be able to speak up. And I think those things spare more discussion and more knowledge amongst ourselves, because if we don't take care, we'll have a group think where we are all thinking in one direction, and we are not thinking broadly and independently enough to be able to generate more ideas that will be able to help us to improve, whether it's our workplaces, our homes, or our churches, or our businesses, or wherever we find ourselves. So curiosity is good. It starts by helping us to be able to probe the issues, dig deeper, bring out more ideas, counter ideas, and also be able to find solutions to problems. Because sometimes if you just sit down and ask yourself that, one curious thing you could just ask yourself is that, why is Accra so haphazardly planned? That's a curious question to ask yourself. And we could generate a lot of ideas and a lot of solutions out of that. Probably we will find so many obstacles and so many counter opinions and all of that. But in doing that, we will be able to start generating solutions, which when we start implementing, we can be able to solve a particular problem. So it is good to ask questions and be curious. And it cannot, sometimes with the asking of questions, it's not maybe just verbal, but even to yourself, when you just ask yourself that question, it can lead you to now go search for the answers, maybe via, like you say, now you don't even necessarily have to ask a particular person. You can go to the internet, you can go on ChatGPT, you can go on search engines or wherever you can get information from. And then you'll be able to streamline all the information that you are getting using what we have talked about, how to sift and discern and possibly get out refined information that you can use to be able to work with and be able to achieve the purpose which you are expecting. So we should not feel like we are too known. Is that not what we say? We say too known. We shouldn't feel that people are too known. But we should allow. And yes, and for ourselves, for other people, we who are also curious and we are learning, and we who have come on this call and we are discussing these things, we should start being open. It's not easy sometimes when we have an established way of doing things or established thinking or understanding about something, and then someone comes to question it, and it looks like, hey, it's some way. But I think we should encourage these type of things. Young people, children do a lot of asking of questions. I have my nephews can ask you 1,000 questions in a day. And sometimes it's so tiring. But I realize that they are in that stage of learning. So it's good to be able to allow them to ask questions, because then they would learn. And then we would have a system and a culture whereby everybody is interested in knowing more and interested in improving themselves. Okay, so we shouldn't stifle curiosity, because I think if we stifle it, we will even kill creativity in and innovation in the process. So let's allow people to ask questions. Let's allow people to probe further and be more open to learn. And by people asking questions, it even opens up opportunity for us also to learn. And you don't necessarily, if someone is even asking you the question, you don't necessarily have to know an answer. That's not the point. It's supposed to be able to help us to be able to now learn and even help them to find how to find the answers. That is also another skill, another way of even how to even look for answers. It's also another opportunity which we can open up to teach people, and that will also help the whole curiosity process and being open to learning. Yeah,
that's some really good stuff, Adam. I like how you started off by giving us the cultural breakdown of why we lack curiosity, and the solution for anyone who has that concern now is really artificial intelligence, AI. Just look up ChatGPT, find the official app on your phone. There's a new model 4.0. You can Google it. How do I get ChatGPT 4.0? You see a lot of stuff from third-party people, but no, look for the one by OpenAI. It will become like a voice assistant on your phone. You ask it any question, it will answer for you. It's amazing. Try it out, and you'll be better off for it. Great. So yeah, that's been a good conversation we've had so far about general knowledge. Just to give you a roundup of what we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, we started by trying to have a conversation about our mindsets, right? A no excuse kind of mindset. How do we get to the point where we don't allow any excuses? If ever we think of an excuse, we try to overcome it. Okay, I'm making an excuse that I can't do this because of this. What can I do to make it happen? You understand? Then we started talking about education, how education brings us value, how to make the most use of that education, be it a bachelor or undergrad degree, a diploma, anything formal education, a master's program, a PhD program, whatever. All right. And then we looked at continuous professional education. How do you keep training in your field? The certifications you need to do, the licenses you need to do, the value of those things. We spoke about it. And today we are just talking about general knowledge, not necessarily about your career, but it has benefits to you as a person and even to you as a professional. There are many benefits to knowing things wide, right? And I'll again quote give that Shakespeare quote that says, "A jack of all trades is master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one." Okay, so it's better to know more things than to be a master of one thing. Great. And we also cautioned you about how to make sure that you are getting the right information, as we are encouraging you to look up on news, YouTube, podcasts, websites with good articles, reputable sources, whatever form you want to consume information, okay, not just social media, all right, not just TikTok, all right, even if you go on those things. I know people will be tempted to say, oh, but I go on, you say Twitter or X is not so good, but I go there to listen to Money Convos. Yes, but even me, when I open the app to start this show, I easily get distracted by all the chaps. So there are certain places that you want to go to get your good information. So that's why we also have other sources that you can go follow us, like and subscribe there too. So get on YouTube, get or wherever you listen to your podcast, get on Instagram, Facebook, you find us there. Also, you find an investment friend on Instagram at investment_friend. We'll help you over there too. So yeah, it's been a good conversation. I hope to catch you same time next week. Next week, we'll be talking about debt, getting back on the money wagon. We'll be talking about debt, and we are going to look at the US scenario of student loans. Yes, you may say, but in Ghana, we don't have so many student loans. It's true. There's a saying, I can't have a saying, that's when I see my neighbor's beard on fire, I go and get a bucket of water and put it under my beard. You understand? So when we see something going wrong or a situation happening in a different country, a different area, we need to ask ourselves, how can we prevent this from happening to us in the first place? It's also relevant to Ghanaians in the diaspora, Ghanaians who are thinking about going out of Ghana. You know, all of us are trying to do Japa. All of us are going to school to study. Just yesterday, I had a conversation with somebody about financing school, especially through debt. So as many of us are thinking about these things, we should get ourselves ready. I just graduated, and a lot of my mates, what we are talking about is, okay, how do we pay off these loans as soon as possible? So talking about debt, especially student loans, is going to be a good conversation. So catch us same time next week so that we have that conversation. All right. I know this is one thing that Edem is very passionate about, and he wants to talk about it. So looking forward to it. Okay, guys. Thank you all for joining. Have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of the week, and catch you next week. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our thoughts. I hope you learned a thing or two and start practicing. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast. Do tell a friend about Money Convos so we all become wealthy together. Talk to you soon. Bye.